Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about, in full spoilers, Ms. Marvel and The Boys. But before that, we got some news to cover. There's a lot of not E3 stuff, a lot of other things that have kind of popped up in the last week. Got a few things to look forward to on the horizon to mention too. But let's kick things off with On Beats. On Beat is, of course, our news segment. Our first story, Spider-Man No Way Home, the More Stuff version, is going to be coming to theaters on Labor Day weekend. That is September 2nd. So...
yeah, I'm sorry. I think there was a typo in that. It's not the More Fun Stuff version. It's the Spider-Man No Way Home, the More BS version.
It's basically stuff that was cut because it didn't work or something, and they're putting it back in so they can... it's just so that they can try to get it, like, further along the line. I think they just want to see if they can push it to 2 billion or something. I don't know.
They're adding Morbius in a new scene, and Doctor Strange says, wow, look at that guy Morb.
So with Spider-Man Far From Home, they did this, and it was most of the stuff that was added, it was actually just kind of hurt the pacing more than anything else. It wasn't really good.
Right, yeah.
And then they also did it with Avengers, and no, it was Infinity War, wasn't it, I think?
I think
it was either Infinity War or Endgame, they did it, and they even had stuff that had incomplete CG and stuff and that was added in. It's just a weird, like,
we'll have to see.
Cash
yeah,
grab.
We'll have to see what the new stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not too terribly excited about it. Our next news story is that Joker, Folie, Deux is going to be a musical, and Lady Gaga is in talks to portray Harley Quinn. So
yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not a huge fan of musicals, to be honest.
Neither am I in general.
Yeah, in general, like, the only one, like, I really, like, adore is, like, the 1980s Little Shop of Horrors with Rick Moranis. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that
Some
movie.
Animated ones, too. I mean, I like South Park, the movie, and stuff like that, which is a musical.
Yeah, I guess. But that's the exception.
Yeah.
Like, I usually don't watch musicals. I don't know. We'll have to see how it comes out, I guess. It's one of those things, like, I guess, like, you have to see it in action.
Well, Todd Phillips is taking an interesting approach to wanting to do these types of movies, to doing like comic book movies and the way he wants to present it. And I'm just interested in what he's going to use the musical to achieve towards that end,
Right, yeah.
I don't think he's just doing a musical for the sake of doing a musical and it's just going to happen to be related to Joker. I think there's going to be more to it than that.
We'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, musicals tend to have like a level of surrealism to them. And with Joker, you have somebody who's like losing their mind. So that could actually be very interesting, because kind of anything goes. Like, you can kind of do stuff that's just completely unnatural. In a way, you're just seeing something from that character's perspective, from their shattered mind's perspective. So I think it could be interesting. It all depends on what he uses it for.
Yeah.
And also in DC news, Aztec Batman Clash of Empires is coming to HBO Max from their Latin American department. It's Spanish language, animated movie. It's reimagined with Aztec mythology. There's a character whose father was murdered, or I think both his parents were murdered, just like Bruce Wayne, except he gets like his bat powers from like the Aztec bat god or something. I don't know. But it's just a very different take on kind of the Batman mythos, like literally tying it into a mythology and making it a myth kind of thing.
Right, yeah, exactly. Could be cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool when they try different things that are just kind of weird and different. And, this isn't like this is even a Spanish language project, which shows they're just kind of trying something completely out of left field. Yeah. It's not like the new direction they're taking Batman in. They're just doing something different. A Duke Nukem movie is in development from the creative team behind Cobra Kai.
Good creative team. I don't know how you get a movie out of this. And let me explain that, because I know, like, it would be an action movie where Duke Nukem kills aliens, yes, but Duke Nukem has no personality.
Mm-hmm.
Zero personality of his own. His personality is entirely a pastiche of, like, these 80s, like, macho action people.
It's like Rowdy Piper and Bruce Campbell and these people, like, so like Rowdy Piper from They Live and Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead, and just taking their one-liners from those movies. And
yeah, and if you ever play Duke Nukem, he's killing aliens and he's spouting one-liners, and that's the beginning and end of it.
Stolen one-liners.
Yeah, stolen one-liners. Like, that's all he's doing. So I'm not sure how you develop that into a movie, because you almost have to create, like, a personality for this character from scratch, because he can't just be saying one-liners, like, through the whole movie and not, like, really displaying any, doing anything else.
I think I have a pretty clear idea of what they're going to do with this, because this is the creative team behind Cobra Kai, and think about what they did with Johnny.
Yeah.
So I think what you're going to have is you're going to have a washed-up Duke Nukem. Who's the games were his glory days.
Yeah.
And now he's like this washed-up action figure, maybe like working as like at a fast food restaurant or something. You know what I mean? Like, he's washed up, got some kind of lame job now, doesn't, have anything to his name. Everybody thinks he's a big loser. And then something ends up happening and it kind of propels him back into it. And he has to. So I think that's what they're going to do, because that's basically what they did with Cobra Kai in a sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I have mixed thoughts on this, though, because I remember a long time ago, Bruce Campbell did some interviews where they were talking about that game to him, because there's so many lines from it. And they're like, oh, what do you think about Duke Nukem? Isn't it great that he's using all these lines he did? And he basically was going off on it about how they were stealing lines from not just Evil Dead, but from other movies. So somebody asked him if he would want to play Duke Nukem in a movie. And he said, fuck no. He's like, why would I want to work for people that rip me off?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, so there's a sense of like the legacy of Duke Nukem I don't like, and I don't like the way they treated people that I do like Bruce Campbell, for example. But on the other hand, this is from the creative team behind Cobra Kai, and I think that they work in a really interesting way, and I like deconstructions. I like kind of when you take a source material and explore it in a completely different way. So that kind of makes me a little bit interested in it. But, as for the games itself and what they did with Bruce Campbell, kind of fuck them.
Yeah.
Our next news story is that Justin Lin, who's directed a bunch of the Fast and Furious movies, he left the latest Fast and Furious movie after creative differences with Vin Diesel. He is now going to be adapting One Punch Man to film for Sony. Have you ever watched One Punch Man?
No, you're going to have to take the lead on this.
Okay, so One Punch Man, I don't know how much you know about it, but basically...
I know it's like about a bald guy. He beats people with one punch.
What's so cool about One Punch Man, like if you just know just that, it's kind of like, oh, maybe it's like a funny one-time joke or something. But it's actually really interesting because it's this guy, there's kind of like, he lives in this world in which like supervillains, like mutant people and stuff just start appearing and doing horrible things. And then like heroes kind of show up and there's like a hero association. And he's just some guy. And at some point he like kind of thinks, oh, like it would be good if I could be a superhero or something. And he decides to like train in the most like mundane way possible. It's like, I'm going to do 100 push-ups every day, 100 sit-ups each day, or it's just like that. That's like his training. It's very mundane. And then somehow becomes this like a Buddha almost, where he just like is like godlike power and he can basically beat anything with one punch. And he goes bald. Like he doesn't shave his hair, his hair just falls out. And because everything's so easy for him now that like win these fights, he has like no joy in life anymore. There's no challenge for him in anything. So he's just bored and apathetic all the time. And it's a deconstruction of like the kind of idea of like an overpowered character and what it would really be like to be that. And that's what makes it like really
like taking the piss out of something like Dragon Ball Z.
Yes, exactly. And just like, and so you have all that kind of dramatic stuff that you would have in something like DBZ is happening all around him and he's just completely apathetic to it.
That actually sounds really funny.
Yeah, it's a really cool, like, I'd seriously recommend checking out the anime. It's really funny. It's actually like really like addictive as an action series as well. Even though he beats everything in one punch, there are other characters and stuff in this fighting and doing things. It makes it like a really compelling action series as well. And there's more going on in the background. It's a deconstruction of superheroes and overpowered characters and stuff. So it's really cool actually. So I'm interested to see what they could do with it. And we do have kind of a marquee market in movies where we have way too many superhero movies. I love superhero movies, but we have so many of them, you know? And to have like something that kind of, you know, deconstructs kind of the ideas that come from those is interesting. Next up, Thunderbolts. Speaking of superhero movies, Marvel's is going to be doing a Thunderbolts movie. It's in development. They got a pitch from Jake Schreier, who's going to be the director of it, and it's going to be written by Eric Pearson. Apparently the pitch blew them away, but, you know, I mean, Jake Schreier is mostly known for doing like Kanye West music videos.
Yeah, and I'm not going to.
And the writer's last superhero thing was Black Widow.
I'm not going to put down the director or anything. Like, you know, the Russo brothers also like never directed a big superhero movie before, like Marvel, I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
but they did Community, and Community did like they did episodes that felt like movies.
So it's possible. Black Widow was possibly one of the worst Marvel movies. Yeah, I don't know, but if the pitch blew Marvel away, I have to trust them. I mean, Thunderbolts.
You mispronounced Thor too.
Thunderbolts is like one of the things like I was really wanting them to get to because it's such a cool idea. Especially to do like a supervillain. Like this could be Marvel's Suicide Squad, and hopefully not in a bad way.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, also you have the situation that Thunderbolt Ross himself, the actor, has passed away.
Yeah, so they're not going to bring that character back.
They did bring in what's the character's name? That Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character.
Yeah, she's going to be the Nick Fury of this team. They've already been setting it up. If you've been paying attention to the Marvel stuff last year, for the past year,
the early Phase 4 stuff in particular,
yeah, you'll have already seen the breadcrumbs of this. I think it's safe to say we'll see U.S. Agent in this. We'll see Yelena in this.
Probably Abomination.
Yeah, probably Abomination. You know, yeah, I'm excited to see it, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the creative team behind it doesn't fill me with a lot of, confidence at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to see a trailer, Marvel.
Yeah. And that's a ways off. This is very early announcement.
This actually hasn't even been officially announced. This was, again, this was a Hollywood Reporter reporting from sources, that it spoke to. Marvel hasn't announced this movie either, and there are movies that Marvel has announced, Fantastic Four and Blade, for example, that are still like a ways away, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a ways off. Like, we might hear casting announcements for this in a year,
Yeah, exactly.
It's a ways off. Next up, we have Ghostbuster Afterlife, the sequel to that movie. It's been confirmed is going to be returning to New York, and there's also an animated movie in development. Last week, I believe, we mentioned that there was an animated series in development, and now there's an animated movie, and they gave the first details about the
so it seems like
sequel being in New York and in the firehouse.
Sony is going all in on franchising this. They must have been happy with the returns for the Afterlife, to see so much movement in this franchise after so long. Cause I remember like after Ghostbusters 2016, it died again, until Afterlife.
Yeah. They're doing some interesting stuff with it. So hopefully it ends up, being good. I really enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. I never watched the 2016 movie.
Oh, okay.
But I liked Afterlife and be interesting to see what they're doing if they're kind of further exploring the territory of that, outside of even just the main characters and stuff, and start kind of exploring just the world in which this all takes place. And could be interesting. Yeah. It depends on what they have,
Yeah, it could be pretty cool.
Next up, and this is just a brief bit of news, and we're only really mentioning this because we're talking about the show in full spoilers, but The Boys, which is currently airing its 3rd season, has now been renewed for a 4th season. As
Not
you
surprising.
said before we started the podcast,
surprising.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. This is one of Amazon's biggest success for their Prime streaming service that they've had since they launched it.
I mean, they're franchising the hell out of this too. They're making a spin-off series that takes place.
They got a cartoon series already. They're doing a spin-off about a college. They're all in with this.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's son is in that.
Really?
Yeah. It's Patrick Schwarzenegger, I think.
Oh, okay.
He's in it. I just saw something recently about that. And that's why I was telling you about how there's an actor in that Boys spin-off series, and the actor's name is London Thor.
Oh, that's London Thor?
Yeah. That's not Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, but that's there is an actor in that show.
Okay.
Not a character, an actor named London Thor. And I'm like, what a name. Just imagine having that name.
That's a weird ass name.
Just imagine you're like in third grade and they're like doing roll call and they're like the London Thor and you're like, here.
Yeah.
This is weird. But anyways, that's The Boys returning for season 4. No duh. Speaking of renewals.
Speaking of no duh.
Squid Game officially announced for season 2. Something that we knew was happening almost immediately after the first thing finished, you know?
Netflix made it official now, but we knew it was happening already.
Yeah.
Like, the way, like, it did, there was, like, no way it was not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But, of course, like, Netflix has to take it a step further with Squid Game The Challenge, which they also announced, which is a reality TV game show based on Squid Game that's promising to be, like, the largest competition ever with 456 players and a 4.56 million prize. Yeah, that's talk about missing the point, Netflix. So I get it. It's like, it's money. I'm sure people are going to watch it, but
it's like Mr. Beast already did it.
Yeah, Mr. Beast did it. I watched the Mr. Beast video and I was like, cool. That was neat. I do not need to watch like this concept ever again. I got my fill of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to do the official one, or it's going to be big stakes and everything with it. But I mean, like, it's not going to be as big stakes as the actual Squid Game from the show.
And the Mr. Beast video kind of proved, like, it's just boring as a normal game show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're killing off people, we're not watching.
I mean, the whole point of Squid Game to me was, like, I'm not suggesting anybody kill people.
I think you are.
But the point of Squid Game for me was, like, the drama in the situation and the characters, like...
Yeah, and the class issues that were in play.
And the class issues that were in play, like, all that stuff. Like, obviously there's going to be drama between the contestants on the show, but it's like, again, it's not going to be heightened because the stakes aren't really that high. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like,
And our last regular news story before we move into trailers and events from this week is Stranger Things 4 is now the top English language season on Netflix ever, beating out Bridgerton and beating out all of those shows. Everything else. Stranger Things 4
is like, that's a beast.
781 million hours watched in just 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like it's good, but man, I would just think, man, like something like that. Again, it's one of those things, like I always think like, God, that is like so niche and like geeky. Like it's a show about kids in the 80s fighting monsters. You know, like how popular could that be? It's like, oh, okay, well, this popular, I guess.
Yeah. It is, while it is the number one English language show on Netflix, it is not the number one overall show on Netflix. That is still Squid Game. Squid Game got 1.65 billion hours in its first 28 days. These are like weird metrics. Like we don't have the total numbers on Squid Game. We only have the first 28 days because that's as far as Netflix counts, I guess, or like as far as what they actually put out. But yeah, it's 1.65 billion for Squid Game, but that's in 28 days. Based on the new numbers, it looks like Stranger Things probably didn't beat the 2-week record that Squid Game had, but it's hard to tell because there's the way they measure it and when the shows start and stop. And we just don't have full data numbers on that.
Yeah. You know? Yes, I don't really care about the comparison anyway.
Well, it's just like, we don't know if Stranger Things 4 is beating Squid Game or not, you know, as far as like, so far. Right. And just because the metrics get and the numbers we get, that's why. So, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy to think about though that the English language show is the less popular.
It is strange. I don't know, like, though, like, if, like, yeah, I don't know, but yeah,
I mean, Squid Game was such a huge international thing, you know, like it was so big, not just here, but like everywhere.
Netflix wrapped up their Geek Week, after we did our last podcast, because Geek Week last week ran through the entire week. Our podcast was obviously on Wednesday in the middle of that.
Yeah, they did their video game day.
Yep. So we got some more, Geek Week information from Netflix, some more trailers. They did a Dragon Age Absolution, which is an animated series based on Dragon Age BioWare RPG series coming to Netflix.
It has that cool Netflix animated video game movie look.
Yeah.
They all have the same look.
I have not played much of DragonAge, to be honest.
Neither have I.
But then they announced Castlevania. We got to see Richter, our boy Richter.
Mm-hmm. Castlevania Nocturne. We knew this was coming. It had already been announced.
Yeah, it already been announced, but we got our first like tease. It's just a tease. Just a tease because like really all they showed was like Richter from behind and we got to see like part of his face. Oh, I can't wait. To say I can't wait. Like, I was like, oh yeah. Like, I was worried too, because that was like one of the last things they showed, like, on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They showed that. Like, I was starting to get worried that, like, Geek Week was going to end and we weren't going to see, like, the new Castlevania.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't wait for it to come out now.
Yeah.
And Nocturne, like, it's called Castlevania Nocturne, and that is, for people who don't know, Nocturne is a direct reference to Symphony of the Night, because Symphony of the Night is the US name for the localization. In Japan, the series isn't called Castlevania at all. It's called Akamaju Dracula. And in particular, Richter's games are all labeled Dracula X. So it was like, the first game was Akamaju Dracula X Rondo of Blood in Japan. The second game was, called Akamaju Dracula X Nocturne in the Moonlight.
That was Symphony of the Night. Yeah.
Yes.
It's also a subtle notice that it's a tie-in to Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's got a crossover with that, featuring Dante from Devil May Cry.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
no, it's not.
so like I caught that. So I was like, okay, they titled this Nocturne. That's like a very deliberate reference that people who only know it as Symphony of the Night probably won't get.
Yeah.
But I got it. It's like,
so besides the Netflix Geek Week stuff, we also got a trailer for Nope, the new trailer for Nope. I think it's our third
final
trailer.
It said final trailer on the YouTube page.
And this is the one that finally lets us know what's going on.
Yeah, this goes pretty in depth into the story behind it. So like basically run down from what I got from a trailer, basically these Hollywood ranch hands, working on movies in Hollywood, they start to experience strange phenomena regarding aliens and UFOs. And instead of just like running from it, they get the idea that they're going to film it and get like the best footage of a UFO that anybody's ever gotten before. So they start getting like other people involved, like experts involved. They start getting like the
camera people involved and Hollywood people involved.
Hollywood people involved. They start getting like the best camera equipment they can get, and they start chasing this thing as it apparently like kills everything in its path. It looks interesting. Looks cool. I like Jordan Peele. I like his movies, so I'm definitely down for watching this.
Yeah, some people think it might have given away too much, but if you think this is the real twist of the movie, then you're not used to Jordan Peele yet, Right,
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like he's doing like a pastiche of like an alien like invasion movie, like with Twister. Like they're storm chasers now, right?
We still haven't seen like where the social commentary is going to kick in, because all of his movies have social commentary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the real twist, and we haven't seen that yet. So there's still going to be more to come, I assure you. Of course, we need to talk about now what's been going on with not E3, as what we're calling it, because E3 was canceled, but we still have all these shows.
Yeah, so, E3, like, this is, I guess, just called the Summer Games Fest. That's what Jeff Keighley would want us to call it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just Summer Game Fest stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
That's like an official event, or official series of events, whereas not everything fits into that. But like, so last week we talked a bit about Sony's event.
We talked about the official Summer Games Fest event. Yeah,
and now we're going to be talking a bit about Xbox Bethesda event.
Yeah, Xbox Bethesda, they held their annual press conference today. It's Xbox Bethesda combined now, because obviously Microsoft bought them.
Yeah.
Most of it, like, I wasn't super into, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to say.
If you had different hosts, you'd probably have people that would have a lot more to say here. A lot of these games don't necessarily appeal to us, like particularly, I think, where they might appeal a lot more to other people. So
yeah, exactly.
We're going to cover the stuff that's relevant to either of us,
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the stuff I'm personally either interested or excited about from this.
Or that there's news too.
Or that there's interesting news to discuss. And I'm going to pretty much ignore everything else. So obviously,
you don't want us talking about something just because it's a game you like or something, even if we know nothing about it. That wouldn't really be helpful discussion.
Say not nice things.
Yeah.
Let's start with Starfield. Obviously, Starfield got the biggest presence at the show. It got like an over 15-minute, demo of the gameplay, and I saw like people are like surprisingly down on this. Like after it,
I think they're worried that they're being too ambitious to the point of it like backfiring, like that it's gonna have like 1,000 planets, I think they said, and people are worried. Well, that means that almost assuredly there's going to be a lot of procedurally generated stuff going on in there.
Yes,
which is much less interesting than like something that's handcrafted.
I'm going to say up front, I don't think all 1,000 of those plants are going to be interesting.
Yeah,
but it's cool that they're there. That's my take. Because like one thing I like is the idea of flying around space and seeing a plant and going, oh, I wonder if I could land there, and then you can. It's kind of like it's more mentally satisfying than if the game just said no.
That's another point of contention, though, is that like No Man's Sky, a big part of what people loved about that game, even with its issues, was that you could like almost seamlessly transfer between space and the planets, and that's apparently not going to be the case in Starfield.
So Todd Howard gave an interview to IGN, I believe yesterday, where he elaborated on some points about Starfield, and he said there will be no seamless switching from the surface to space. He basically said that the reason it's not seamless is because they did not want to spend a bunch of time engineering on that because gamers don't care about that. He said he wanted to put the effort into making sure that the on-surface experience is amazing and then the flying around space experience is amazing. And
I think he might be wrong in that.
And he said gamers just don't care.
I think you might be wrong in that because, like, No Man's Sky would have been nothing if it wasn't for that. Like, nobody really cared about anything else going on in No Man's Sky when it first came out, except that.
Do you want to stress?
And people were obsessed with that aspect.
This is not No Man's Sky. This is going to be much more interesting, RPG-wise than No Man's Sky.
But I was going to say, like, also Bethesda is known for the idea of, you even said it, like, oh, there's a planet. Can I go there? Yes, you can. Or, like, the idea of, like, the famous quote that everybody refers to when they talk about open world games was when they showed, I think it was when they showed Skyrim for the first time, or it might have been one of the other Elder Scrolls game where they said, you see those mountains? You can go to them.
You can go there.
And the idea that like there would be a transition between those where you don't get like that seamless feeling of moving there is like kind of anti-Bethesda in a way. You know, it kind of goes against what people loved about Bethesda games, what Bethesda contributed to the open world style of games the most. So I can understand there being a lot of hesitancy there. When you actually play it, it could be you just might not care, you know?
Right.
But we don't know that yet.
He also said there are 4 major cities in the game. The main city, he said, is like the biggest city they've ever made for a Bethesda game. There's going to be a ton of stuff in this game. There's going to be like different factions that you can join, all kinds of stuff to do. They said the main quest will take about 40 or so hours to complete, which is like, that's in line with past games in the series. Like, if you're only doing the main quest, like, you're not really playing the game. Yeah.
I mean, that can be said about anything. That can be said about Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Xenogears, you know, any game that's big like that. If you're only playing the main game, you're not really playing the game.
But people have said this looks like Fallout in space, and I agree, but that's not a bad thing to me. That's actually a good thing.
Let's move on to Hollow Knight Silksong. And the first thing I want to bring up about Hollow Knight Silksong, I don't play the Hollow Knight games. I'm not really too terribly interested.
I don't either. So
but the thing that's interesting here is that for every Nintendo Direct since Silksong was first announced, it's been people going like, oh, when are they going to show Silksong? When are they going to show Silksong? It's not a Nintendo game, but everybody anticipates it for it because it sold like, I think it sold more on Switch than on every other platform combined or something.
Yeah, and then
it's so synonymous with Nintendo, and here it gets announced at a Microsoft show.
Yes, it gets announced at a Microsoft show. It's announced it's coming.
Or not announced, but the trailer, you know.
Yeah, the trailer shows up at Microsoft show. It's announced as being day one on Xbox Game Pass. Switch fans got trolled hard here.
Somewhere there is a giant bag of money at Team Cherry that has an M and then a $sign next to it. I know like people that like this game and are also Nintendo fans are probably pissed because it was expected that this would be a Nintendo reveal. This would be at a Nintendo Direct.
That came out, or Nintendo Direct, people were like, oh, Hollow Knight?
Yeah.
Like, nope.
Pretty much. You go watch any of those when they debut live and you look at the chat on YouTube or something, and it's just going to be a long stream of Silksong. Like that's all anybody's saying. And it kind of feels a little bit like a betrayal, I imagine, for those people. As somebody who doesn't really have an investment in that franchise, I don't really care that much, but this leads into the next game we're talking about, our next series of games that we're showing at this Xbox event, which is Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal.
Hey, guess what?
Switch fans have been begging for ages now.
Hey, guess what? Persona games finally launched on a system that's not PlayStation, PC notwithstanding.
And then officially announced for everything but Nintendo Switch.
Yes. So Persona,
the one system everybody's been asking for.
So initially, it was revealed at Microsoft's press conference. Persona 3, P, P4G, P5R are officially coming to Xbox and Xbox Game Pass day one.
Yeah, and on the PC, I think too, right? With the Game Pass as well.
Yes, they're also coming to PC. And so at first there was some confusion, like we didn't know if these were just going to be ported to the Xbox. There's some weirdness with Microsoft not letting announcements at the show if they're multi-plat being announced for the other platforms until like 48 hours after.
It also has to be noted that even on PlayStation, only like Persona 5 is on PS4 or beyond.
Yes.
PS3 and Persona 3 and Persona 4 are not on modern PlayStation systems.
No. In fact,
but
Persona 4 Golden
later.
was only on the PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
And P3P was only on the PSP. But it was later announced that those games are also coming to PS4 and PS5. And it leads Switch as the odd man out. And I'm just sitting here thinking, but why?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense because all these games can run on Switch. Even Persona 5, because guess what? Persona 5 was a PS3 game. It was not like, it was a cross-platform when it launched between PS3 and PS4.
Yeah, it could easily run on Switch.
Yes.
This would be much easier to get this to run on Switch than many games that are running on Switch.
It baffles me so much because SMT5 was one of Atlus's most successful games. As far as like the mainline SMT goes, like it was
not even
like,
just that, just anything that doesn't have Persona in its name
that
they make.
As far as the mainline SMT goes, it sold like over 1 million copies on the Switch. No SMT game besides Persona has ever sold beyond 1 million copies, and it did that pretty quick. It's probably even more. And so I'm like, okay, so obviously Atlus is going to want to put more games on the Switch. And it's like, no, Soul Hackers 2, which is a sequel to a 3DS game, is inexplicably being developed for PS4, 5, and Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles with no Switch version.
Yeah. There's kind of like 2.5 possibilities for what's going on here. So on one hand, it could be that all this stuff is coming to Switch as well, but they're just waiting to announce it at a Nintendo Direct.
That's what I see the Coke people saying.
Yeah, I mean, and that's happened before. It has happened before where like a game is announced for everything but the Switch, and then it's announced for Switch. I think it was it last year or the year before when Guardians of the Galaxy was announced, and that was announced for like every platform except the Switch, and even though it was only a cloud version on the Switch,
it was announced as
it was
a cloud
not
version.
Announced that it would be on any version on Switch
That's right,
until the Nintendo event.
It was at Square's conference. Square revealed it at their conference, and they announced it for every platform but Switch, and then the Switch version was announced in the Nintendo Direct.
So this stuff has happened, like that kind of thing has happened. Like these companies know that Nintendo fans watch Nintendo Directs, like more so than Sony fans watch State of Play, more so than Microsoft fans watch the Microsoft events. Nintendo fans tune into Directs. Like they know that that's like a cultural thing for Nintendo fans. So they could just be holding off for that. That's one possible answer. Another one that's kind of like a spin-off of that is that the reason they haven't announced it is that they are coming to Switch, but maybe, and some people have, speculated this online already, maybe Persona 5 isn't coming to Switch, but the other ones are, which, as we said, Persona 5 should be able to come to Switch, but lazy developers could find an excuse why it wouldn't, It could feasibly be an excuse.
It's like Nomura trying to make us believe that he can't get Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 running on Switch. Which is like, what? Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah, and then the other full possibility, and this is entirely a possibility, and as unfortunate as it is that Atlus Sega is just that stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a legitimate possibility, So, I mean, it wouldn't be the first idiotic thing that either of those companies have done.
Let's follow up the rousing success of our last game with like nothing. That's a great strategy.
And again, there's precedence for that too.
Yeah.
So that could be the case. Speaking of all these like weird choices with platforms, that leads us to our next story.
This actually isn't a weird choice in platform, when you think about it, like what they're doing. But yeah, so Xbox has surprise up their sleeve. Not really surprised because, Jeff Grubb, formerly of GamesBeat, now of Giant Bomb, kind of like spilled the beans like about a year ago about this. But yeah, Hideo Kojima showed up, not in person, but over video feed at the Xbox conference to announce that he is working with Xbox to make a game with Xbox. He said it's going to utilize the cloud, and that's all the details that we have on this.
So you're thinking cloud like Stadia or Game Pass, like digital thing. I'm saying that it's a game featuring Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII.
It's utilizing cloud technology. Basically,
so a Buster Sword.
What Hideo Kojima was saying, and the short clip was like, this was a game idea that he had been thinking about for a long time, but that the technology just wasn't there for him to do it. And he believes cloud technology, it will let him realize. And from what I've read, what I've heard is previously Kojima took this idea to Stadia. He was going to do this with Google because, Stadia had just launched and it was exciting cloud technology, and Google rejected his pitch. And I think what had happened with Google is just that they were winding down internal development and they didn't want to invest in internal development anymore when that happened.
They were stupid because that would have been like 1 million new Stadia subscribers at least.
Yes, it would have been. And so who else is like pushing cloud but Xbox? I mean, I think that's the reason why this isn't a PlayStation game, is Sony isn't really advertising cloud gaming in the same way as Xbox is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why he's doing this with Microsoft. I know a lot of PlayStation fanboys are like pissed at this, and the Kojima Productions had to put out this ridiculous statement that they still have a good relationship with Sony. They really shouldn't have to say that, but it gets so ridiculous with these fanboys. But yeah, but there's not much else to say about this because we just don't know what it is. It's years away. I did see Tom Henderson leak a horror game called Overdose that apparently is attached to Hideo Kojima with Margaret Qualley, but we don't exactly know if that's this game or not, or what that is. So it's hard to say that. And from the sounds of it, this particular game is going to be a while away. So it's going to be a wait.
I just like the idea that PlayStation fans are freaking out and saying, listen, there are some games that are just intrinsically linked to Sony systems, like Metal Gear Solid, which debuted on, or Metal Gear, which debuted on Nintendo Entertainment System, and Final Fantasy, which debuted on...
Actually, Metal Gear debuted on the MSX computer, which was a joint venture between Microsoft.
Same point. Or Final Fantasy, which debuted on Nintendo Entertainment System.
No, I just brought up MSX because Microsoft was involved in that, so technically it debuted on a Microsoft platform. So if you want to point to a legacy, there you go. That's your legacy. But yeah,
I just like the idea that like Sony fans are freaking out about franchises being stolen when most of their franchises were stolen, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just funny.
So the last game from the Xbox Bethesda event that we're going to talk about is Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. This is the new game from Team Ninja, which seems to be deeply connected to like a Soulsborne type game. I think I saw something about saying that it's somebody involved in Bloodborne is attached to this too.
Yeah, so the producer on this game is one of the producers from Sony Computer Entertainment Japan. He quit Japan studio from Sony and he went over to Tecmo, and he's a producer on this. He was a producer on Bloodborne when he worked at Sony. There's nobody actually from software working on this as far as I know.
It's like in a really small role or something, some random programmer.
But yeah, this is the new action game from Team Ninja. This is definitely in the Souls style. It's more in line with like Nioh, which was their last Souls-like action game series. And this is also, what's interesting about this is that instead of being set in Japan, this is set in China with like the Three Dynasties like
Three
era.
Kingdoms,
yeah, the Three Kingdoms era. Kind of like sort of tying it to Tecmo Koei's like other products, right? With Dynasty Warriors and stuff, thematically at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
except that shit was real.
Yeah. This is gonna have monsters and shit, which is fine with me. I'm not looking for historical accuracy. As long as they don't say this is the most historically accurate thing we have. Here's a giant enemy crab.
Yeah.
Coming to Game Pass day one, which was kind of surprising.
It's kind of all their shit, right?
Yeah, it was basically the Game Pass press conference. I was talking to somebody earlier, and it was like, the reason like other big games are multi-platform didn't show up, why you didn't see more of Resident Evil 4 Remake or Street Fighter 6 of this, is probably because those games are not coming to Game Pass, and Microsoft just wanted to emphasize all the games that they're showing were coming to Game Pass. They want to say Game Pass like a billion times during this press conference, so you were unlikely to see anything that wasn't going to do that.
Yeah. So that finishes off the Xbox Bethesda conference, and then we have two more stories related to E3 kind of happenings around.
Smaller stories.
Yeah. First off,
go ahead.
Resident Evil Village, one of your favorite games.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Vastly.
Is getting some DLC. I don't know too much about this, but I heard something about that you can control a giant vampire lady that everybody has a mommy fetish for now.
Yeah, so here's the deal. So the game has a mercenaries mode. Like previous Resident Evil games, it's just like a score attack mode where you're like, the goal is to kill as many enemies as possible within the time limit, and you rack up a high score doing it. In the current version of that mode, the way it is now, you can only play as Ethan Winters. He's the only playable in that mode. Apparently they're expanding the mode with the DLC to include other playable characters, including Vampire Mommy. So you're going to have Ethan like before, but you're also going to have Heisenberg, or you're going to have Lee Dimitrescu.
Heisenberg?
Yes.
So you cook meth to win points?
Yeah, exactly. You cook meth. Yeah, there's a character named Heisenberg. Yeah, Lee Dimitrescu, and then like one more character is playable, but like I'm blanking at the moment. It doesn't matter. That's not really exciting to me. I did not care for that mode when I played it. It just wasn't fun. So I'm just gonna focus on the stuff from the DLC that I am excited about, which was like, we got a new story chapter, which is focused on Rose, who's Ethan Winters' like daughter. And this is throughout the game, she's a baby, but this is like set 16 years after the events. So she's older in this, obviously. Looked really cool. It's going to be in third person, unlike the main game, which was in first person view perspective. And it looks like it's going to be a bridge between Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 9. Makes sense. I'm excited to play that. And then the other cool thing, which is not as cool as like a whole new chapter of the game, but still pretty neat, is like they're adding a third person mode to the game now. Mm-hmm. So you can now play through the entire game in third person, which I'm kind of excited about. That should be interesting for like a new playthrough to go through that. So I'm pretty happy with the DLC. I'm definitely going to get that when they release it.
And then our last story in our On Beat segment.
Rumors.
Is a rumor.
Rumor zone.
There were some images that were leaked that appear to be from a new Fire Emblem game. These are tied to some other rumors that had been circulating around. Even with the image leaks, this is still firmly in the rumor territory. It's really easy to fake this kind of stuff now, especially if you feel like any incentive towards doing so.
I'm saying personally, there's about, I'm saying 90% it's real, about 10% these are fake images.
I'm saying about 70% it's real.
Yeah, you're more skeptical than me. I think they look very convincing to me.
I've seen other things that are very convincing.
Yeah, so we don't know. So I'm obviously not going to report this as being fact because they have not been confirmed. Nintendo has not confirmed nor denied these
and
images.
There are a few things that are like images appear to be taken off of a screen and it's all in like Chinese. These are like things that you see in fake leaks a lot, which makes me skeptical.
But
a lot of the presentation of these.
The image just showed some characters from the new supposed Fire Emblem, including the main character with very long red and blue hair.
Joy-Con color hair.
Yeah, Joy-Con color hair. Some menus, mostly menus, by the way. Weird. And then like there's some other guy who looked like a knight. I mean, not too much to go on, really. It's
mostly menus are easier to fake.
Yeah, I know you're skeptical, but
I'm just saying.
Let's
pretend. You say mostly menus for some reason. It's like, well, menus are a lot easier to fake.
So here's the thing. Let's pretend this is real for a minute. What is your opinion, if real?
Not too interested. It looks like a Gust game.
Yeah.
Which it was connected in the rumors. It makes me think that if this is fake, they might have taken some assets from a Gust game and like reworked them and then threw them together to do this, if they did can't do it fake. The whole thing in the rumor, which doesn't relate to the pictures, of being able to summon past Fire Emblem characters sounds really lame to me. That sounds like that's exactly the same hook that's in the free-to-play mobile game.
So right as we're doing the segment, I went back to look up the images to check, and apparently a new image has leaked, and I will push this to you so that you can see it and comment on it. It's a full profile of the main character from the front, because the original image, you only saw her from behind. Looks like a typical anime girl, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got like white and blue outfit with like gold accents.
Yeah, and it has like, I told you, it's that off-screen way that's a way that you can hide things that are easily discoverable.
But it's interesting that it's a front profile, because like I saw people like looking at the original saying, oh, of course the main character is only shown from behind because that's a lot easier than having to fully model like a new character from scratch. All they would have to do is make that hair and like you're good.
You wouldn't even need to make a new character from scratch. You could take an existing character and modify it.
So it's interesting. Doesn't prove anything, but then we're waiting on this Nintendo Direct, right? This Nintendo Direct seems like super late this year. It's like, come on, Nintendo, what are you doing? just give us the news.
Might not even be one this month. You know, they could pull a E3 2020 and just release individual trailers and bits for stuff they have coming up, you know?
I'm confident there's going to be one this month. I'm a believer.
I'm
a believer. Yeah,
I wouldn't say I'm confident. I'd say I'm hopeful.
I'm a believer until the end. Like, because we said this last September, we were going through the same thing. Like, oh, maybe it's not going to be in September after all, because like it was getting to the wire. And then like at the last week or like the week before last week of September, like it happened.
Well, the big rumor is that the Direct's going to happen on the 29th, which is the same day that Nintendo's doing an investors call.
Yeah.
Which is like, sounds very like, that raises big red flags for me of like, no, this is bullshit.
I don't know about that, but I'm still confident it's happening this month, that we're going to get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for our news segment. Now we're going to move on to On the Horizon. On the Horizon, of course, where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Our first entry this week is actually, it's coming on Thursday. It should be out by the time this podcast is available. Normally we don't talk about stuff until a little bit later than that because we've already covered this from the week before, but this is a newly announced date, so we didn't get to mention it last week, and that's why I included it. And that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which is coming on Thursday, June 16th. By the time you're listening to this, it should already be out on PS4,
I'm
Xbox One,
super
PC,
excited.
and Switch.
The reviews start coming out for this, and it's getting great reviews.
Yeah. Yep. Looks good. And it's highly anticipated. Then we have on Tuesday, June 21st, Motherland Fort Salem is coming back to Freeform for its final season. I know Will wouldn't be into this, but I think aesthetically it does some really cool, interesting stuff.
About it. Yeah.
I've talked about before, like, I like it, but there's definitely issues, but it's I
think the concept's interesting. I think the
aesthetic is really interesting too.
The concept's interesting. I think being on Freeform kind of like fills me with, it's just going to be full of like obnoxious writing.
Yeah. And there's some stupid things too. It's one of those shows that you watch and you're like, it's almost there. You know what I mean? Like you watch it and you're like, they nailed the aesthetic. They got that down like pat. The concept's good. Some of the action, some of the stuff like is really well done. Some of the plot twists, some of what they're willing to show is really well done. But then like a character will just do something really like cliche and you're just kind of like, why? Like you're so close to being really good, you know? That's kind of the line that Motherland Fort Salem sits upon. That's the fence that straddles. It's like right between those two. Then on Wednesday, June 22nd, The Umbrella Academy returns on Netflix. This will be something we are definitely going to talk about on the show.
Yeah, we're both excited for this, so yeah.
Also on Wednesday, June 29th, Wellington Paranormal returns on the CW and HBO Max.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you've watched that at all yet, but it's basically a spin-off to What We Do in the Shadows. Not the show What We Do in the Shadows, but the movie.
Yeah, we've discussed this on the podcast.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Previously. Yeah, definitely want to check that out.
Yep. Then on Thursday, June 23rd, I'm going to have to resubscribe to Paramount Plus because Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe comes out.
Oh, yes. Oh, I can't wait. I saw the trailer and it's like they never left.
Yes. Then on Friday, June 24th, Loot comes to Apple TV Plus. This has got a good cast. It's got Maya Rudolph as the lead. Adam Scott's in it. It's about a rich woman who's left by her husband, like obscenely rich woman who's left by her husband. And now she's like, I have nothing except billions of dollars. And it's like about kind of her like like trying to find some purpose or something. Like conceptually talking about it doesn't sound too terribly interesting, but it's got some great comedic actors involved in it, and that's what makes it interesting to me. And that's Apple TV Plus on Friday, June 24th. The Man from Toronto hits Netflix on Friday, June 24th as well. That's Kevin Hart and Woody Harrelson. It's an action comedy movie. It's a case of mistaken identity. And then on Friday, June 24th as well, and the rest of these are from Friday, June 24th, I should say. Capcom Fighting Collection comes to PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. I know you're probably psyched for this.
Oh yeah, I'm psyched.
It's Capcom Fighting Collection because it has some other stuff in it, but you can almost just call it a Darksiders collection.
Yeah, Darkstalkers. And I'm also excited for Red Earth. That was the CPS3, a unique game. It never got a home console port until this collection. Mm-hmm. So that's also interesting to me. Apparently they said, when they started playing this collection, they started with that game and then added the other games. So it's interesting, but I'm dreaming of a day when we have all of Capcom's classic arcade games on modern platforms. So
also coming to Switch on that day, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. I personally don't care. I don't care about Warriors games.
Oh man, not a Muso fan.
No, I think they're okay, but I just got bored of them.
Okay, that's fair.
But it's a big Nintendo exclusive, so if you're into that, that's coming. And we mentioned Fire Emblems today, and we are deeply connected with Switch stuff, so I thought that was important to leave on there at least. On the theater front, Elvis comes out on Friday, June 24th as well. That's Buzz Luhrmann is directing. Tom Hanks is in Austin Butler. Dockery Montgomery, who was Billy on Stranger Things, is in this as well.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the big Elvis biopic. And then The Black Phone comes out also on Friday, June 24th. This is the new Scott Derrickson movie. This is what he did after he left Multiverse of Madness, when he decided he wasn't going to do the second Doctor Strange movie. This stars Ethan Hawke and Jeremy Davies. It's a horror film. Scott Derrickson, director of the first Doctor Strange movie. That's in theaters also June 24th. And that leaves us to our final segment. Full spoilers. We have two shows we're going to talk about. The first one, we're going to kind of decide whether we're going to continue discussing this week to week or what we're going to do with this. But we're going to talk just about the first episode, even though the first two are out. And that is Ms. Marvel. We're going to be talking about season 1, episode 1, Generation Y. What are your like basic thoughts in general about this? I know you were kind of not looking forward to this.
I was not interested from the trailer, but I watched it. I enjoyed it. It was good.
It's super stylistic. I think that's what I like about it more than anything.
It's super stylistic. I also like the realistic way it portrays its characters, right? You know, Kamala Khan is, you know, like, even though, like, I'm never a teenage girl, but she is relatable. I know, right?
Next thing you're telling me is you were never Muslim either.
But they managed to make her relatable, like, you know, like, as an outcast, like, in school and stuff, and kind of like an introvert who's into, like, geeky stuff. But they don't do it, like, in an obnoxious way where they like, overemphasize those things, like, to the point it's just, like, a part of her personality, and
it's believable.
Yeah, it's believable. And the way she's written, like, she's, like, very down to earth. She's not, like, always saying quippy things or like quoting pop culture like every 5 seconds. Like, her dialogue is like,
she's not too clever.
Yeah, she's not too clever, which you see a lot when like people are writing teenagers for like a teenage audience. Like, they tend to do that. Like, yeah, like she's normal, which is kind of like refreshing.
I like a lot of the supporting cast. I think her family is really well done.
Yeah, her family.
There's a really good dynamic between her family. It just feels very believable.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of, there was a Netflix show, I think it's called Never Have I Ever, that was produced by Mindy Kaling. It's about like an Indian girl that's growing up in California and her family and stuff. And it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, not necessarily thematically, but like in the sense of this kind of East Asian household in America and kind of like the family dynamics and stuff. That's what it kind of reminds me of. And it's done extremely well. You really relate to the characters. I think a lot of times when they do like the Marvel kind of properties and they try to introduce like the families, they kind of just feel like third wheels, like they're just kind of tacked on.
Yes, yeah, like they're just there.
And this feels like much more like it just fits in. It's like it's part of the story. Like it feels like a family drama and like a high school drama as much as it feels like a Marvel.
And you got the feeling like her mother is so protective, and we see like that scene at the end of the first episode where, because she snuck out to go to the convention, and then when she gets back, she sneaks back into her room and her mother's there, and her mother gives her that speech, and she's so disappointed with her. And I just like thinking like, okay, like as she more and more has to like go out into the world and be Miss Marvel, how that's going to further strain that relationship.
Mm-hmm. And we, there's something tied to her ability set, which is a change from the comics. It's the controversial part of the show.
Yeah.
But there's something tied to like her family in relation to that. And they go into that a little bit more in the second episode, which we're not going to be discussing. But it's just, I think if I didn't know about the power set change, I think I wouldn't have any issue at all with the way this is handled. Anything
I mean,
it's the fact that I know about it.
Philosophically, I don't like random changes to like establish what's established in the comics. Mm-hmm. I think they should stick to it. But on the other hand, I never really read the Miss Marvel comics. I'm not really missing the stretchy arms in this. I think it's fine.
She's also an Inhuman, which they haven't tackled in the MCU.
She's not. Yeah, right. Yeah, for obvious reasons. Kevin Feige doesn't want to go near that at the moment.
I think there's a chance based on the way they portrayed her powers and stuff that like, and the way they portrayed her access to her powers, that they could still even do like her regular power set at some point, Yeah,
yeah.
If they wanted to, they could like do that. And Marvel has done that. They've gone in and kind of done like soft retcons on things, So they could kind of like better incorporate it in. I mean, they kind of made Scarlet Witch, Wanda, they kind of made her starting off more as a straight up kind of Infinity Stone created character kind of thing, like power set, into like going into like witchcraft and sorcery and stuff, like they've kind of evolved that aspect of her character into her, which was made her more comic book accurate as it went along, so you could see that there's a possibility they could kind of stretch more into her actual power set and stuff. There's room to do that if they choose to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I want to talk about, because I kind of want to move on to our main topic with the boys, because we have so much to go through with that. But there's a few more things I want to hit on Miss Marvel. One is that, as I said, the show is super stylistic. The way they do like the text conversations, like there's a scene where she's talking to her friend like through text messages, and it's like the text messages are showing up on the screen like in the crosswalks, on the buildings, in the neon signs, like on the bedspreads. It's like everything. It just, I love stylistically the way it puts it together. It looks really good. It looks really cool. There's a lot of like cool camera angles and like camera motions and stuff. There's a scene where she like kind of falls backwards onto a couch and the camera tips all the way over with her and stuff. And it's just, there's a lot of like kind of inventive stuff that makes it like really kind of fun to watch and kinetic in a way, which makes it look a little bit like Edgar Wright-esque in the way it's presented. And I think tonally wise, this really kind of has like, it fits kind of with like Spider-Man, don't you think? Like the MCU Spider-Man stuff, like from a tonal perspective.
Oh
like
yeah, for sure.
It feels like she could run into Peter Parker at any second.
Yeah.
Like totally. She could walk outside of a shop and bump into him, like it just feels like that. Like it totally fits so well.
We gotta get to the boys.
One thing before we go on there, like let's decide, are we going to continue covering Ms. Marvel, and if we do, are we going to cover it week to week? Or are we going to wait until it's done? Like what do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
I'd be fine either way. I mean, we'd be doing boys and Ms. Marvel, but we wouldn't be doing like a big clump of episodes for each. So right. I'd be fine doing it week to week.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine doing that. That's fine.
Okay. So next week, I guess we'll probably do 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel next week just to catch up.
Yeah.
And 1 episode of the boys because we'll be caught up at this point. So we'll do both Ms. Marvel and the boys. That's good. And then we'll do, I guess, Umbrella Academy later after a while. Give us the time to watch it and catch up with everything else after we finish these shows probably. And that leads us into our final topic, which is the boys. And we want to get into this because we've got 4 episodes to cover. And first things first, they went there. The beginning of the first episode.
They went there, yeah.
They hit the Thanos Ant-Man meme hard.
Yeah, they did. With a new character called Termite. I don't have to say much more about that. It's just, it was an explosively good time. Let's launch into like our basic thoughts about this season so far. So far, I feel like this 4 episodes is the build-up. It's funny that like it's an 8-episode season and 4 episodes are devoted to building the tension, but like that's really what it is.
I kind of think they made a mistake. We're talking about the first 4 episodes here, but they only released the first 3 initially.
Yes.
And we're talking about 4 now because last week we did Advocate, so we kind of delayed it. But it really feels like they should have launched 4 initially because like I don't think things properly got set off until the 4th episode.
Yeah. that's what I'm saying. Like, the fourth episode is the one where stuff really starts happening. Like, because like for the first 3 episodes, you get the build up, you get the setup, you know, where there's a peace, Homelander is subdued, you know.
I mean, it's largely a bunch of passive aggressive characters.
Yeah, passive aggressive. Homelander is having to go on his apology tour. Butcher is, you know, working for Huey, who's working for, you know, Victoria Newman. And you can see under the surface, neither Butcher or Homelander are completely happy with the situation. They're both frustrated. And we get this great scene, like, you know, where Homelander confronts Butcher and they strike up this deal that, you know, they're going to go hard at each other or something.
I think it's less like a deal and it's more kind of like they're expressing their mutual frustration. As much as those characters hate each other, there's like a common bond between them, which is that they both hate all the bullshit that they have to deal with instead of just going straight at each other. Like they both feel they would rather just go straight at each other, but that they have to dance around, you know, the actual confrontation. And then them talking is kind of like, that's the commonality they share.
Yeah, exactly. Basically what happens is the main plot line is Homelander's starting to lose it. He's starting to lose control. And Maeve sees this and she goes to Butcher and she tells Butcher, you know, gives Butcher a plan. She tells him about Soldier Boy and says they've located, you know, like the weapon or something, you know, that where the weapon is that supposedly killed Soldier Boy, you know. And the implication being that Soldier Boy was so powerful that like any weapon that could kill him is powerful enough to potentially kill Homelander.
Yeah. Soldier Boy, I mean, we haven't talked about Soldier Boy yet. For anybody who doesn't know, Soldier Boy is the parallel to Captain America in the same way that Homelander is a parallel to Superman, except, you know, Soldier Boy is much more powerful than Captain America is. He's much more comparative to Homelander in power set as far as like, I don't know if he can fly or anything, or if he can
I think he's supposed to be invulnerable.
And we see him launch a guy through the air like hundreds of feet in the same way like Homelander would.
Yeah, so he has like ridiculous super strength. But supposedly he's dead. We get like a big flashback sequence, right? From the boys like boss.
Grace.
Yeah, for Grace.
The kind of informal founder of the boys.
Yeah, we get this flashback sequence to Vietnam in the 70s. Or no, it's in the 80s. It's the Iran-Contra stuff. They're in South America, like preparing drugs and shipping it to the United States to fund Reagan's policies, you know. And so what happens is like, Payback shows up, which is like the premier superhero team at that time.
Which Soldier Boy leads, yeah.
Yeah, which Soldier Boy leads.
They're a very Marvel team, whereas like the Seven is a very like Justice League. Yes. Payback is very much Avengers. Think Avengers Payback, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they're the premier superhero team at that time. Grace doesn't want Payback there because they're not trained soldiers. They don't know what they're doing at a battlefield, you know?
And they completely fall apart when shit goes down.
Yes, they do. They cause shit to go down because like the one guy who's like Dragonfly or something who has wings, he's flying around and he like alerts like the enemy to like their location and shit goes sideways fast. Also, we see Black Noir's origin.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently because like Black Noir is in Payback at this time and like he's like a normal person. He has his mask off, you know, he talks and stuff like a normal person. He's like
his name's Irving.
His name's Irving. He's trying to convince Stan Edgar, you know, to let
a young Stan Edgar, which is weird too.
Yeah, he's trying to convince Stan Edgar to like allow him to do more adventuring without his mask on. You know, instead Stan Edgar just like gives him like the speech about like, you know, how like the world isn't ready to see like a black guy on the set, you know, in like the world's premier superhero team.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is like after everything goes south, like a bunch of people die, and then we see Black Noir and he's completely scarred. Like half his face is like scarred up. He has like a big gash in his head and he can't like talk or anything anymore. He's just like reaching for his mask. And that's how we get like the Black Noir we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And then through all that confusion, Soldier Boy goes missing, presumed dead.
Yeah, well, we were told by Crimson Countess.
Yeah.
She says that they killed Soldier Boy and they took his body, and then you see like it's a helicopter flying away or something, and that's presumably the Russians having captured Soldier Boy's body.
And there's some conspiracy that was actually a setup, that the government set that up to get rid of Soldier Boy. Again, we don't know. We'll learn more about that because, yeah, again, this is all set up for the main plot. Homelander is increasingly losing it. Homelander gets to a point where he gets so frustrated during his birthday thing that he just says what he's thinking.
Yeah, he just goes on an egocentric rant about how great he is.
Yes.
And somehow people like respond to that positively because
yes, his numbers go up.
They're clearly drawing like a MAGA parallel to him.
Yeah, they clearly are.
It's pretty obvious, and his numbers go up with a certain audience, down with another audience, but way up with a certain audience. And you also get like little hints of like, you know, like Mother Milk's like his ex-wife, her new boyfriend or something. We know is like a big fan of like superheroes and stuff. Yeah, and you see him watching when Homelander's doing it, and he's like nodding along like he's all into it. Yeah, and it's like, kind of, that's what they're doing, that MAGA parallel of just like, it's within it's not just like a group of foreign people or random people you don't know. It's like people within your own spectrum that are going to be attracted to this kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like another thing is like, Stormfront dies the season, that also like exacerbates his mood.
Yeah. We see her all burnt up giving, you know, Homelander a tug job, trying to convince him to reproduce, I think, to create the master race.
Create the master race, and he's like, no, I am the master race. Like,
yeah, he doesn't want other Homelanders. He is Homelander, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that like upsets her to the point where she just gives up and kills herself, you know? Of course.
Her death is kind of what pushes him over the edge finally, too.
Yes, it is.
Not immediately, but like it's what's weighing on him that causes him to
that, and out. Like, yeah, and Stan Edgar is also like putting pressure on him like constantly. Like he puts Starlight in charge as co-captain, says it's because the Homelander's numbers are down. What's interesting here is I think Stan Edgar's playing to something here. So what I think is happening, because the first scene of the season, we see Stan Edgar and we see Bobby Singer. He has
the same name as the character in Supernatural.
Same name as the actor. Yeah, oh yeah, same name as the character in Supernatural, not the actor. Yeah, Bobby Singer.
Although there is a producer on Supernatural named Rob Singer, so.
Yeah. So it's funny he's playing a character with the same name in two shows. But I digress. Yeah, he's talking to Bobby Singer, who's like running for Congress, and he shows him the temporary V, which is a version of V formulated to only last for 24 hours. And the idea is like he can sell that to the government, and then they would have to continually buy more. And it's a continual profit maker if he can convince the government that they need it. Bobby Singer like rejects it, says, you know, there's no place for soups in the military, and he doesn't want none of it. So what I think is happening, and there's another scene too, where Starlight threatens Homelander again with releasing the tape of what happened on the plane in season 1.
And Homelander basically like lays out what would happen if that happened.
Yes.
There's a reason that tape is a measure of last resort.
Yes. Homelander tells her in those uncertain terms that he would take out the centers of government, White House, the Pentagon. He would take out the infrastructure. He would lay waste to the whole thing. And so what I think is happening here is I think Stan Edgar is intentionally pushing Homelander's buttons to try and goad him into doing something horrific that would then allow him to turn to the government and make a case saying like, oh, Homelander's out of control. You guys really need to like soup up your military right away if you're going to stand a chance against this guy, right? You're going to need this shit now. Like, I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Homelander seemingly gets a victory over Stan Edgar though.
Yeah.
Which he gets Victoria Newman, who he knows about now apparently.
But even I think that's orchestrated.
Yeah. That's why I said seemingly. He seemingly gets an advantage over Stan Edgar. Gets Stan Edgar basically booted from his own company.
Yes.
Seemingly. And Homelander now kind of taking over it. Homelander feels completely confident now. Of course, that feels like the setup to his own downfall because that's, you know, hubris comes before the fall, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I love the scene. One of the best scenes of the season. I love the scene where Homelander confronts Stan after that incident. And Homelander gives this big speech of like how he used to like be afraid of Stan at some point, but now like he doesn't know what he was afraid of. Like Stan looks so small now to him and everything. And Stan Edgar just looks at him and without even flinching, without even showing an iota of fear or anything, just tells him, you know, you're not a god, you're just bad product. And he walks out like a boss.
Yeah. Well, he says like, he's all, well, maybe it's because you needed my approval like I'm your daddy.
Yeah.
which, has a big connotation of who's your daddy, kind of like, superiority, which is like a feeling that Homelander is afraid to have towards anybody. He doesn't want to feel inferior to anybody.
I think if Homelander is Superman, then Stan Edgar is Lex Luthor.
Very well could be, yeah.
Yeah. He does not show any fear, even in that situation where he was completely powerless.
Even like a tiny, there's no flinch, there's nothing. It's just no shake, no quiver, just nothing. It's as if their powers are reversed.
Yes.
It's as if Stan Edgar has all the abilities and Homelander has nothing, That's like the way Stan Edgar approaches Homelander. And it's interesting. I wonder how they're going to play that out. Feels like at some point they're going to have to have it.
Interesting too, because for everything Homelander said in that scene, after he's insulted to his face like that, he still stands there and lets Stan Edgar walk. He doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. So Huey and Starlight are kind of working behind the scenes, besides Huey's work with the boys, to kind of like work against Homelander in small ways.
Yeah, there's a new Supersonic that gets involved.
He gets involved. It's Starlight's ex-boyfriend who she had given her virginity to. And so Huey feels kind of almost cucked by their relationship. The fact that like it seems like they're so close and stuff. So Huey's kind of acting a little cringy, like trying to, like when he's around him, he's like putting his arm around her, trying to kind of exert his position as her boyfriend, and that's creating a little tension and stuff. But the main issue here is that Supersonic is actually not interested in pursuing Starlight like that, but he is her friend, and he's trying to deeply convey that, and he wants to help her even if he's putting himself in danger.
Yeah, but Huey's getting jealous. He's starting to feel inadequate, and that's becoming an issue. Yeah, Supersonic wants to help out Starlight. Unfortunately, Starlight tells Supersonic all about her plans to take out Homelander, and she asks him if he's in.
She unfortunately didn't give him enough information about the other members of the Seven.
No, because
don't
he
trust
agrees.
A-Train.
Don't trust. Yeah, because after he agrees to do it, he sees A-Train get into a fight with the Deep, and Homelander breaks it up,
and humiliates
A-Train, while praising the Deep, and just walks off with the Deep, and A-Train's pretty pissed off and humiliated. And Supersonic takes it like, oh shit, yeah, if anybody's has an axe to grind, it's gonna be this guy, right? I should let him in on the plan. And he completely miscalculated A-Train here, because A-Train, yes, he's upset with Homelander, but A-Train really just wants to get back into Homelander's good graces. He wants to be at the forefront of the team again.
Yeah, and being let in on all this information just gave him a way to do that.
Exactly.
It's kind of similar to what happened with him and that cult that the Deep was part in last season, where A-Train got put back on the Seven while the Deep was like, but what about me? And A-Train's like, well, sorry, gotta go, and after he got put back on, it was all the kind of friendship that the Deep thought he had with A-Train at that point was bullshit. That second A-Train was able to take advantage, he did. And it's the same thing. A-Train's opportunistic, so he gets this information. He immediately tells Homelander. We don't see that. The next time we see Supersonic, he's already dead.
Yes. Homelander brings Starlight to a random rooftop, explains that he knows about her planning behind his back, and the proof of that is Supersonic's dead corpse that he lasered to death, apparently. And he tells her, she better knock it off or it's going to be Huey in that spot next time.
Yeah. The other side of all of this, the Supersonic Starlight situation that we had mentioned with Huey feeling inadequate comes into play, because now that Butcher has this temporary serum to give him superpowers.
Maeve gave him the Temp V. Yeah.
And Huey catches him shooting it up before a mission that they're going on. And Huey seemingly, I actually saw some people debating that maybe Butcher did give it to Huey and didn't say it, because we didn't really see the scene where Huey took it. We saw a scene where Butcher said, you shouldn't take it, but then it ended kind of somewhat unresolved to the point that Butcher could have just given it to him. And he's just playing dumb about it. But the main point is that now both of them got souped up for a 24-hour period of time in their effort to find the weapon that killed Soldier Boy so they could take out Homelander. And in doing so, Butcher has basically Homelander's power set. We haven't seen him fly, but he's invulnerable, super strong,
laser eyes. Yeah, he's basically Homelander. Huey steals some and he gets teleportation abilities.
Which has a funny after effect of,
yeah,
he teleports, he teleports out of his clothes, not his clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is hilarious. what happens is they go to Russia, they go to where they suspect the weapon is located, kill a bunch of Russian soldiers, Huey and Butcher with their new powers. What they find there instead is they actually find Soldier Boy, who was being experimented on by the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And Soldier Boy apparently unleashes this new ability where he shoots like a blast or something out of his stomach, blasts Kamiko with it, and Kamiko, who I remind you has like super
Wolverine-like healing powers, yeah,
is not healing at the end of this episode. And apparently Soldier Boy just walks off in the confusion, and so now that's interesting. So now apparently Soldier Boy has a de-soup power?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I guess it fries out the compound V in a soup system. It eliminates what gives them their powers, And so now we'd always wondered, will, Soldier Boy be a threat to Homelander? Well, now he is. He's like an existential threat to Homelander.
Yeah, exactly. Because he could potentially depower Homelander. So that's going to be interesting. Like I said, it's all, these 4 episodes were all build up. Sure, we're going to see stuff start to go down for real next episode. I can't wait.
Yeah, we should mention, Kamiko, not only did she lose her healing ability, she's hurt and lost her healing ability.
She's very badly hurt.
She's bleeding out very badly.
So yeah, we're going to have to see where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, to wrap this up real quick, overall thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the fact that it's just been a while and I'm not as into The Boys as I was before. I still liked it, mind you, but I feel like I'm not liking it as much as I did last season, especially in the first 3 episodes, but it started getting more exciting for me in the 4th episode.
Same. I agree with you. And I just think it's because of the slow start the season had. I'm hoping it wins me back in the back half.
Yeah. And there's lots of other stuff that happened within this episode. Some of it good, some of it kind of maybe a little dull, but we're not going to get into everything. We kind of hit on the main points that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
And that kind of brings us to an end of our full spoiler segment. Next week, we're going to talk about episode 5 of The Boys, as well as episodes 2 and 3 of Ms. Marvel. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Reach out to us on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. That is the best way to reach us. Check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to the container story for any of our podcasts, you can find all of our social links. The links to our direct RSS feed for the podcast, the links to our SoundCloud page, our Twitter, our Facebook, everything is there. It's the easiest way to kind of catch up on anything you want to do with us. And then, like I said, if you do want to reach out and comment, the best place is on Twitter, at Tyson Gifford, at Voxel Hero. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.